Hello, everyone. I think I'm doing this properly. Once again, I don't know if I do these things in the right order because I never really experiment with things and do things correctly. But my name is TJ. Welcome so much to all of you who are joining me now. And we're going to be talking about the film news that was big, that was huge, that was all of the stuff this past week. There are some obvious stories that we're going to be talking about, as you could probably tell from the thumbnail. That includes Harvey Weinstein getting convicted and Roman Polankski winning Best Director at the Caesar Awards just a couple of days ago in France. And there's also a lot of other stuff that I think is worth talking about. The Berlin Film Festival Awards have been announced. We know who's going to be the cinematographer for Robert Eggers' new film, The Northman, and just a whole bunch more. So we're just going to get into it. We're going to have some good times. Please make sure to let me know in the chat that you're here, what you thought were some of the big news stories of the week. We'll talk about those at the end if they are not the news stories that I plan on talking about already. And please just, comment on what I'm saying and get involved in the conversation with me, because these kinds of things are always so much better when you're telling me your thoughts on what I'm actually talking about. I'm going to take this opportunity to lean forward and grab myself a soda that I will not name by name. You might also notice that I'm not in my apartment. I'm in a much nicer apartment. It's good to be here. This couch is far more comfortable. We'll see if that improves the stream or not. I don't know. So, let me just switch over here. Oh, no, not that window. To this window. And then, wait, where did that other window go? Live streaming, folks. It's the wave of the future because nothing ever goes right. All right. So I'm just going to switch over here to this view for you guys. You can see yourselves in the chat now. I figured out how to do that as a thing. Smart guy. Smart guy right up here. So that's all said and done. Looks like the audio's coming through all right. I know the video's coming through all right. And I was kind of conflicted as to where to actually start this live stream as far as talking about the news. I feel like because the thumbnail is Harvey Weinstein and Roman Polansky that we should start there. So we'll do Berlin right after this, plus a bunch of other smaller stories near the end that I think are pretty interesting. So, Harvey Weinstein, total piece of shit. He was on trial for various rape charges and sexual assaults, and he has been convicted on a couple of them. The maximum jail sentence he can receive for one of those charges is 25 years. The maximum sentence he can receive for the other one is 4 years. And, the thought of him going away to jail for 29 years is pretty great. I feel good about that number. He's an old guy. He probably ends up dying in jail if that does end up being the number. However, this could have gone much worse for him. There were 3 charges, I believe, that he was acquitted on. And from what I've been reading, from what I've been seeing people talking about, in several of the cases, this is essentially because a couple of people couldn't really bring themselves to accept the fact that a woman was telling the truth about her traumatic experience with Weinstein. And that is unfortunate. However, I think we do need to take solace in the fact that even though there were charges that he was not convicted on, he was convicted. He was at one point one of the most powerful men in all of Hollywood. He made or broke careers on a whim, and now he's going to jail. And that is a win for all of us going forward. This particular article that The Guardian wrote about Weinstein's conviction is actually really good. I'll be putting links for all of these articles in the description below. They're not there right now because I forgot to do that. So maybe I'm not as smart as I think I am. But this basically lays out the entire prosecution strategy, how they decided to go about it. Apparently, it was a much different way from prosecuting a sexual assault case. And the idea here, what they're setting up in this article, is that this case, while being a major win in regards to just getting creepy assholes out of Hollywood, it can also be a major turning point for how sexual assault cases are actually prosecuted in the United States and perhaps around the world, because it seems to indicate that juries are more inclined, or at least more likely to believe a woman when she says that she has been sexually assaulted by someone who she also has consensual sex with. Apparently, prosecutors in the past had been too iffy on whether or not that would work as a strategy. We're concerned that juries wouldn't be able to parse those two things, but now it seems like that is the case, and we could be at a turning point where it's going to be much easier for prosecutors to prosecute sexual assault cases, which means that more skeezy, shitty people are going to be going to jail, which is always a good thing. So yeah, I wasn't really going to get into this article too much. Basically, super happy that he's going to jail. Obviously, I would be shocked if he ended up getting a full 29-year prison sentence for this. You know, as much as he is a complete piece of shit, he also is a very wealthy, very influential man still, somehow, unfortunately. And we all know that when influential white men go to jail, they don't get the full sentence that they deserve. So I believe the minimum on the one charge where he could go to jail for 25 years, I believe the minimum is 4 or 5 years. I would imagine that his sentence is going to be closer to that, unfortunately. It super sucks. But that's kind of how it is going to shake out, unfortunately. It's a positive step that he's actually going to jail. It sucks that it won't be for longer, but who knows? Maybe the sentencing judge wants to make an example out of him and says, no, you know what? 25 years, no parole. Fuck you. So that would be fantastic. So Harvey Weinstein going to jail. Awesome. And yeah, if you're wondering how this relates to the thumbnail, where I'm just kind of like, what the fuck? I can't believe this. My WTF for this story is more the fact that he didn't get all of the counts were not convictions. All of the charges were not convictions, I should say. And then going on from that, we have the Roman Polankski debacle that happened at the Caesar Awards, I believe on Thursday or Friday. I believe on Friday of this week. So essentially, for those of you who don't know, Roman Polankski, also giant poo head. I realize I've been swearing a lot in this already. Maybe I need to tone that down so I don't get demonetized retroactively. But Roman Polankski is a terrible human being. He was convicted of statutory rape in the 1970s and had to flee the country. He has not gone back to the United States. France, or I believe, I can't remember if the United States have tried to extradite him and France has refused, or if the United States just hasn't tried to extradite him. But he is an awful person, and more people have come forward over the years saying that he sexually assaulted them. And he should, obviously, if the guy is out of jail, his rights to create film, those should still exist. I hate saying it, but it's one of those things where if you are a free person, you are free to do whatever. I'm disappointed in a film industry that continues to fund him, and I'm disappointed in the actors and the crew who continue to work with him, knowing his past. But he still makes films. Okay. Woody Allen still makes films. Also kind of a skeezy shithead. But there comes a point in time when we have to look at who we are giving awards to and what that says about us as a society and as a film community. If we continue to celebrate people who have done atrocious things in the past, we are letting other people know that they can still do atrocious things and be celebrated as creators, as artists, as directors, as actors, etc. And that is not a good thing at all. We should not be encouraging that kind of behavior. So, the Caesar Awards. Roman Polanski's new film, which I believe in French is called J'accuse, which is hilarious in its own way. But the English language version is An Officer and a Spy. This film first got some heat because it had its world premiere at the Venice International Film Festival, and so and it was in competition as well against 20 other films, the competition of which Joker won. So people were like, why the hell is Roman Polansky being allowed into this? By the way, Venice, you only have 1 or 2 films directed by women. Why couldn't you just knock Polanski out of here and have a more deserving person who has not sexually assaulted or raped someone? Couldn't you do that? And Venice is like, no, he's an artist. Ridiculous. You can tell I have biases in these topics. So, Officer and Spy gets into Venice. I believe it won second place, actually, behind Joker. It did. Joker winning ended up being like the big controversy of that festival. I think it overshadowed Polanski getting second place for his film. The film getting second place, I should say. I don't believe Polanski won Best Director. Although maybe he did. I can't remember now. But anyways, it premieres at Venice. That's controversial. And then the Caesars, which are France's version of the Academy Awards, announces their entire nomination slate. And The Officer and the Spy had the most nominations with 12, which is wild considering we're talking about this is a year when Les Miserables and Portrait of a Lady on Fire both exist. And the fact that a Roman Polansky film would have more nominations than both of those is mind-boggling to me. But it speaks to kind of an entrenched notion in the film industry that some people need to be protected for some reason, and some people need to be celebrated despite what they've done, which I obviously disagree with. And so the awards happened a couple of days ago, and to, I think, a lot of people's shock, Roman Polansky ends up winning Best Director. Oddly enough, I believe An Officer and a Spy only ended up winning 2 awards, and we're actually going to go through the Caesar Award winners because I think there's some interesting things to be said about who won those awards. But Roman Polansky wins Best Director, and in response, a few people actually ended up walking out, and that has tended to be the focus of all of the articles about this. Roman Polansky winning is just kind of like the lead into the fact that women, female actresses, walked out of the awards ceremony when his win was announced. That was begun by I'm trying to find. So it was Adele Hanil, and she left the room saying shame. I'm just kind of reading here from the BBC article that we're all looking at right now. And then also the director of Portrait of a Lady on Fire, Celine Sciamma, also walked out, which is like awesome. And I'm getting a thumbs up for my pronunciation of Sciamma. I've been practicing that all day. So that was also great. And then the presenter of the award also just kind of walked off stage as soon as she read Polanski's name, and then did an Instagram post saying that she was disgusted by this. This article, once again, kind of goes into the history behind Polanski and why he's kind of a piece of shit and why a lot of people don't like him. Not as detailed as the Weinstein article, but still not bad. And yeah, my thoughts on this, I've kind of led in with this and I already talked about it a bit, but if you do terrible things and you don't apologize for them and you're unrepentant for them and you are just increasingly shown as being a terrible person, you should not be awarded for your achievements. I think that you just disqualify yourself for being an utter stain on society. I believe this is true in terms of nominations to the Baseball Hall of Fame, as an example. People who doped heavily in the steroids era should not be allowed into the hall, period. You know, people who do things like Polanski did should not be winning awards like this. I was also talking about this when the Cannes Film Festival gave a Lifetime Achievement Award to Alain Delon, the actor, because he has just publicly said, like, gay marriage is bad, and he is a noted abuser of women, I believe, and there's a lot of other stuff. And there's no need, when you're handing out one award per year, you know, there's surely someone else who deserves the award more than the guy who beat up women and says that gay people should not get married. Like, regardless of their actual filmography and the things that they did in their career, we need to celebrate the people who are both excellent artistically and exemplify what it is to be a decent human being. And I don't think it should be that hard. It's not like we're disqualifying 99% of all people. So yeah, I think we would be doing a lot better in that regard. So in short, in closing, Roman Polansky sucks. I hate that he got an award. And it's going to be things like this that I think are really going to force awards to change. They're going to have to change who's voting on these things, who is actually promoting people and pushing them forward, because people are going to just stop caring about them. And if you're someone like the Academy or the Oscars or the BAFTAs, when you do shit like they've been doing for the last couple of years, people of our generation, of my generation, like the millennials, the younger people, like we're just going to completely ignore them and not view them as being anything other than corrupt. And while some good things can come out of those awards, like Parasite winning Best Picture, by and large, we don't trust them. You know, when it comes to something like Parasite winning Best Picture, the general reaction was, oh my God, they actually got it right. But when you look at everything else that they got wrong, in terms of like films that were not nominated that should have been, because the voting block is essentially old white men, we, as a younger generation, just don't care. And we don't feel that it's representative of actual quality, of actual talent. And I think that is true. And I think when we start looking back at things in 20, 30 years, we're going to all agree on that point, because all those old people won't be able to tell us anymore, because they'll be long dead. Anyways, that was a bit of a tangent. Yeah, Roman Polansky sucks. Should not be winning awards. Smarten up, Caesar Awards. You should be doing better than that. And I, for some reason, have qualified myself as holding the moral high ground on that issue, so you should absolutely listen to me. I apologize, I've been talking for about 17 minutes already. I have not looked at the chat at all. I see that we got Dory here, and I'm just going to sort of go through what he had to say. Hi, Dory. Welcome back. Always good to see you. Dory here is saying that Hollywood knew about the casting couch and nobody cares. The rich and powerful lives by different rules. It's an insider's game, and you're not in it. It's true. I'm not in it. And yeah, they do live by different rules. And they should be made to live by our rules, because just because they're rich and powerful doesn't mean that they have the right to assault people. And I know that's not what you're saying, but yeah, we should essentially bring them all to heel. Like, let them be creative, let them do whatever they want, let them create film, but also take away the utter nonsense and atrocity that takes place behind the scenes. Like, that just shouldn't happen. No industry should be above the law. And then Dory also said, Roman Polansky is an amazing director. My favorite film is The Pianist. They allow 12-year-old girls to get married in America due to religious reasons. I mean, that's two separate issues. I'm defending Polanski in that way. I don't agree with. Like I said, the fact that he's an amazing director is irrelevant in my mind. He has made a mark on film history, to be sure. Chinatown is a classic. I'm not saying that it's not. But I think we have to start looking at who actually gets awards and seeing them as a reflection of what we value in society. You know, if we just go on skill alone, you know, would we give the Nazis an award for making the trains run on time? No. They were really skilled at it, but the end product of it and what it represented was pretty fucking terrible, and so we're not giving them an award for that, you know? So when really terrible people do terrible things, and people are like, well, yeah, they did terrible things, but it's not connected to their art, therefore I can still praise them for their art, I disagree with that. What they create is tied inherently to who they are, and if they are doing bad things, or have done bad things, then they shouldn't be winning awards for anything. Being a piece of shit should disqualify you from any kind of artistic achievement, in my mind, especially if you are unwilling to apologize for what you have done. And Polanski definitely has not done that. And then moving on, we got Ozga in the chat. Wow, that's such a surprise. I can't believe it. She's actually like 5 feet away from me right now. I can wave at her right now, both in stream and in person. She's waving back. And her comment is, I feel like voters sometimes get swept by the general feeling, hype about a movie, and so award it, but apart from that, they get back to voting as they usually do. Yeah, that's probably right, and it kind of goes with the Parasite win versus every other time the Oscars have been disappointing. Although I don't know if that can really apply to Polanski winning a Caesar. I don't know anyone getting swept up by that film. But, I haven't seen it. I don't plan on seeing it either, because I also feel like on a more personal level, we need to support the artists that we want to support and not support the artists who we feel like are not good people, or for various other reasons. But so I try to make a point in my life to not support, white supremacists, to not support Nazis, to not support sexual abusers, to not support a lot of different people like that. And, by voting with the dollar, we're all doing the thing that we should be doing, which is letting people know through the capitalist system that we live under who should rise up and who should fall down. So, yeah. That is me talking for 20 minutes about sexual abusers, getting what they deserve, and then getting what they don't deserve. And me being like, God damn it, everyone, we need to be doing so much better. But, as we saw with Weinstein, going in better directions. I'm just going to do a quick check-in here. I'm just curious. We've got 4 concurrent viewers. Hello, everyone. I know we've got Dorian Osgay in the chat. Make sure to comment in the chat. Let me know who you are, where you're from, what you thought was the big news story of the week. And if we got time at the end, we'll do a quick chat about it. But for now, we were talking about the Caesar Awards, so why don't we just go through some of them, see what else was actually winning and what beat out other people. We're only going to look at some of the bigger awards. I imagine that not a lot of people are that interested in the Caesar Awards as they happen after the Oscar Awards, so it's like, whatever. But as a country, France is obviously very important to film history, and a lot of very good films typically come out of there every year. And how they choose to award different films is kind of interesting. And also there are some head scratchers. I'm not going to include the head scratcher I just talked about because I think I've talked enough about that. But I think there's some interesting things that we can get out of here. So, looking at best film, it was won by Les Miserables. I saw that movie. There's a video on this channel of me talking about this movie. I really like this film. And if you're wondering why I'm bobbing my head, it's because my microphone is right here and it's blocking part of the screen, so I kind of have to shift around it. So Les Miserables beat out a number of films. The specials I had talked about a long time ago because that was going to be shown as a special presentation at Cannes. And Portrait of a Lady on Fire, I've certainly mentioned it a lot on this channel. I had an opportunity to see it a couple of weeks ago. It's aces. I think, Dora, you actually really like it as well. Planning on seeing it again at TIFF in a couple of days because I think it's going to be a better projection of it. And I want to make sure that I'm seeing the images as they're supposed to be shown, which is not always the case at my local Cineplex. So there are a couple of other films here that I haven't seen. Oh Mercy, La Belle Époque. I swear I am Canadian, but I know virtually no French. La Belle Époque, By the Grace of God, and An Officer and a Spy, and Oh Mercy as well. So I've only seen 2 of these films. I feel like Portrait of a Lady on Fire probably should have won this, but I'm also glad that it just wasn't An Officer and a Spy, so for that, in that regard, I'm somewhat pleased. But I do think Portrait of a Lady on Fire here was the standout film, at least out of the 2 that I've seen. And then for Best Actor, it's actually hard to talk about some of these because I have not seen them. But I think when you look at some of the films that won acting awards, it seems like a lot of those are the ones that were nominated for Best Picture as well. So there does seem to be a convergence between those 2. So for Best Actor, we had Rushdie Zem for Oh Mercy. Best Actress was Agnès Desmoustiers. I can occasionally say proper words. And that was for Alice and the Mayor. The one thing that I wanted to point to for Best Actress, for one thing, Eva Green was nominated for Proxima, which is a surprise. I wasn't aware that was a French film. Actually, I don't even know if that is a French film. It's English language as far as I know. Can Eva Green speak French? Proxima. I have a researcher now who's going to look up things behind the camera. But the other interesting thing here is that two of the actresses from Portrait of a Lady on Fire, both leads for Portrait of a Lady on Fire were also nominated for Best Actress. Not really sure how the Caesar Awards do things, but if there was a vote split between the two, then that could have meant that one of them would have won if only one of them was in the category. I like to think that that is the case. Who knows if it actually is? But at the same time, I couldn't really think to myself like which one I would knock down to Best Supporting Character or Best Supporting Actress. So I like that they were both nominated, but I would have loved it more if one of them had won, because Portrait of a Lady on Fire is great. And then for Best Supporting Actor, we had Sean Arland for By the Grace of God. Proxima is German? Oh, French-German, okay. Proxima is French-German, so I guess that's why it qualifies. And then for Best Supporting Actress, we had Fanny Ardant for La Belle Époque. And Best Promising Actor, I thought this was interesting, was Alexis Mantegna, who played the role of Chris in Les Miserables. And that says to me, like, he was an older gentleman. Not to say that he's like old, but he was like in his mid-30s probably. And he played like the douchey kind of the jerk cop who's just going around being like, whatever, I can do whatever I want because I'm a cop. And I just felt like he had been acting for a while. So the fact that he's winning Best Most Promising Actor says to me that he's fairly new on the scene. So like, good for him. Good for him for his performance in that. And then for Most Promising Actress, we had, I don't know why I'm doing this myself, I'm just reading out names that I don't know how to pronounce. It's like torture almost. For those of you who get into this kind of sadistic side of things, I hope you're really enjoying this. That was the winner of Most Promising Actress was Lina Corduri for a film called Papicha? This one right here. Papicha. And then... Yeah, there wasn't many... there was one other... There was a lot of other things. I'm not going to get into the technical awards. Obviously, for the best screenplays, La Belle Époque, Nicolas Bedos for Best Original Screenplay. Good job. That Prick won Best Adaptation, so I'm not going to really talk about that. I did want to touch on this one, though, and that is that Claire Mathon won Best Cinematography for Portrait of a Lady on Fire. So that's great. She was also the cinematographer on Atlantique, which is nominated here somewhere for something else. Oh, for Best Feature Film. It's actually just to the left. It's called Atlantics here, but I believe it's Atlantique in French. And Madi Diop was the director on that. So, awesome. I wish you had won Atlantique. You were quite a good film. Also, kind of hilarious that Les Miserables was nominated for Best First Feature Film but did not win, but won Best Feature. Wild. I don't know what you guys are doing in France. It's messing me up. But yeah, congratulations to Claire Mathon. I believe that was the only award that Portrait of a Lady on Fire actually won, which is kind of insane. So yeah, and the other thing that I really wanted, that I thought was like kind of nuts, was that Best Original Music was won by I Lost My Body, the animated film that was nominated for Best Animated Feature at the Oscars, that had like the severed hand going around and like choking pigeons. Choking out pigeons, you know. It's just really surprising to me that would win Best Score. I remember the score from Atlantics being pretty good. I don't really remember the music in Les Miserables at all. But yeah, I Lost My Body. Congratulations. And I believe it also won Best Animated Feature as well. Yes, it did. So we live in a world where I Lost My Body wins more awards than Portrait of a Lady on Fire. And as much as I think that's weird, like good for I Lost My Body, but also like Portrait of a Lady on Fire should be getting way more. Like that's going to be the one that we're talking about in 10 years. Out of this entire nomination class, whatever that you're looking through, the film that's going to be talked about in 10 years is Portrait of a Lady on Fire, and like obviously Parasite. As you can see here, it won Best Foreign Film. Who'd have thunk it? What a surprise win. Oh yeah, and Les Miserables also won the Audience Award. So I think that's actually kind of cool that, you know, as much as we talk about Portrait of a Lady on Fire being the better film, obviously the French audience thought that Les Miserables was better. Although I will point out that Portrait of a Lady on Fire was not included in this award. No idea where the nominations come from, but it appears that it was not there. If the audience votes on that, I don't know. Maybe the actual release date for it has something to do with it. Maybe Les Miserables was out for longer. Maybe these other films were out for longer. I don't know. It's hard to say. The Specials is listed here, and I know that premiered at Cannes, and Portrait of a Lady on Fire also premiered at Cannes. So I don't know. Like I said, the Caesar Awards are a little bit of a mystery to me. And it deserves further investigation. But I didn't want to go through it. I didn't want to point out what I thought was interesting. And I think I have accomplished what I have set out to do. I'm going to go back to the chat quickly. We have Osuke saying that Francois Ozon is one of my favorite directors. Didn't know he had a new movie out. Which movie did he direct?
It's up there in the best category.
In the best film category? Francois Ozon. Oh, By the Grace of God. Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's take a look at it, just quickly. By the Grace of God. Grâce à Dieu. It is a film that stars people whose names I won't. Three survivors of a Catholic priest's abuse who, as adults, settled to expose the sexual abuse hidden by the Catholic Church. Signed.
Award, Roman Polankski.
It is kind of interesting that they would award Roman Polansky while also nominating a film about sexual abuse by the church. Weird. But yeah, I want to see this. How do we see this? I don't think it hasn't been released in North America from the looks of it. So it'll probably be on Netflix in a couple of weeks. And also we have Dory checking in again saying Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Portrait of a Lady on Fire painting was amazing. My eyes were glued to it. I wanted to know the pain and passion that inspired the portrait. Yeah. The link between the actual creation of the painting and the relationship between the two women. It's a very interesting link to make. A very interesting parallel to follow as it's going along. And yeah, I think Dory, in a previous comment, you also said that that in the way that you were sort of fascinated maybe by Whiplash, and that you hadn't really cared about drumming in the past, but the way that Whiplash portrayed it made you care about it. And it was also similar in Portrait of a Lady on Fire, where you never had cared about painting, but you were mesmerized, as you say here, or that your eyes were glued to it, I should say, is also indicative of just how good the direction in the film was. That you can take something that, literally, an expression that we have for boredom is that it's like watching paint dry. And that the director, that Sciamma, could make it interesting and make you emotionally invested in it is remarkable in my mind. So yeah, good for her, good for us for liking it. We all validate ourselves based on our interests, so good for us. Little caffeine break. Ooh, okay. Now, since I was going way out of order from what I wanted to, I'm trying to figure out what I should do right now. Let's do some quick hits. So let's just go through some quick stories that I thought were really interesting. Let's go with another one that pissed me off. Russia is censoring the first openly gay character in a Pixar film. And there's a couple of things to parse out of this that are both kind of infuriating to me. One is that Russia is censoring a gay character. Fuck you, Russia. I don't care if I can never go to Moscow. Your president, your prime minister, whoever the fuck he chooses to be this time around is a huge asshole. I don't care. Vladimir Putin can go fuck himself. Your stance on gay rights is atrocious. Fuck you. And yeah, the fact that I'll go into quickly about how the censorship happened in this. Apparently, there is a character, a female police officer, I believe, who just verbally mentions that she has a girlfriend. And in the film, I'm just going to highlight it right here. It features a Cyclops policewoman named Officer Spectre, who at one point says that she has a girlfriend. For those seeing Onward in Russia, the word girlfriend was changed to partner, according to the Moscow Times. The Russian branch of Disney hasn't released any information on why they decided to switch the words, other from the fact that there's just a bunch of homophobic assholes working in Russia in the government, because that is literally government policy. And so there's a couple of things here. Like the one I already talked about. Russia, fuck you. This is stupid. This is literally stupid. Like, don't do this. It's so simple. Just don't do this. Allow gay to exist. Because it does. So stop trying to legislate against it with your bullshit. So that's one thing. Another thing. As it's stated in this would have been, I think, Disney's first openly gay character. Oh, wait. It's the first openly gay Disney character. I said Pixar initially. That's not correct. It's the first openly gay Disney character. Disney has existed for about 100 years at this point. They've gone that long, and this is the first one. And the thing that really bugs me here, aside from Russia censoring it, is that this character has like one line, apparently. I mean, it's one line where they talk about their girlfriend. But the way that this article is written is that the character is not a main character. They are pretty much off to the side, and so it kind of just sounds like they decided to have a token gay character in the film and then couldn't even have the courage to allow her to be that, to be her own, to have her own sexual identity in that other country. Like, they're really just doing this, and this kind of also goes back to what happened in The Rise of Skywalker, where at the very end of the film there was that that gay kiss between two women at the end because they were all celebrating, and then that one shot was taken out of the film in particular countries who also don't think that gay is okay. And once again, it was just an example of tokenism where they didn't even have the balls to leave it in. So they're really just doing it for North American audiences. They're doing the absolute bare minimum that you could do in this regard, and then they're just throwing it away when it's inconvenient for their box office. And now they're just doing it again. So, yeah, I shit on Disney a lot, and I'm going to continue to do so because shit like this is unacceptable. Like, have a moral stance. I know you're a corporation. I know you're the biggest media, like one of the biggest media corporations in the world. Maybe use your clout for good instead of just trying to like appease North American audiences and more Western audiences. Like, come on, do better, Disney. If you're going to be our corporate overlords, be good corporate overlords. And then when we eventually dismantle you because you're a terrible company, we'll cry about it a little bit. But then we'll all be happier because then we'll have more choice at the box office, which would be cool. There's more of a rant than I wanted to go on that. But yeah, Disney, not cool. Not cool, guys. Also, Russia, not cool. Not cool. So I'm going to leave that in the past. Let me know what you think about this in the chat. What you think about it. Let me know what you think about all of these things. If I say something that you don't agree with, let me know. I'm always happy to talk about it. Just because I'm doing hot takes and feeling mad doesn't mean I'm incapable of having a reasonable discussion about it. Although there are some things that I feel like you can't have a reasonable discussion on. I don't see the other side of the Disney, censoring an openly gay character. I don't think that's an argument that I could have with someone else because I just can't accept that the other side has any ground to stand on. But yeah, let's move on. Let's move on to something that will not make me mad. And that is, I guess I had not picked the article I wanted to go from. So let's do this one. You guys know that I really like The Lighthouse, and I think some of you really like The Lighthouse as well. Robert Eggers, good guy, future best friend of mine. He's super cool. And it turns out that Yaron Blaschke, pardon me if I'm mispronouncing that, who was the cinematographer on The Lighthouse, is coming back to be Robert Eggers' cinematographer on The Northman, and I am exceedingly excited about that. I think The Northman is probably slated to come out in 2021, and already it's like one of my most anticipated films of the next 2 to 3 years. I often don't think about films that far down the line, but holy shit, the cast of this, Alexander Skarsgård playing a Viking, again because he actually played one in True Blood as well, and yeah, the fact that it's Blaschke again just gives me so much hope because as much as Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson killed it in The Lighthouse and the production design was incredible, the cinematography of that film is really what you walk away from, aside from like the Willem Dafoe monologue that he gives. That's just incredible. But even as soon as the trailers hit of this movie, it was like, oh my god, this is beautiful. And then when we look at it in theaters, it's just incredibly, insanely beautiful. It's really, it's amazing. It's incredible. So I'm so excited about this. For some reason, there's a photo of Kit Harington in Game of Thrones here. I don't know why. Also, just photos of Anya Taylor-Joy, who I believe is also cast in this film as well. But yeah, this is happy news. I feel so happy about this. Let me know if you're happy about it in the comments as well. I'm gonna go back to the chat quickly. Dory's saying Whiplash and Portrait of a Lady on Fire subplot. I enjoyed the pursuit of perfection. Agreed. It's a cool thing to show. And I think it kind of says something about the way that certain people can build careers on YouTube just by performing things at a level that we consider masterful. Like, I watch people who play Super Mario Maker to relax because they're just so good at it, and watching them be so good is kind of great. Okay, let's move on because I just looked at my battery and we got some time. We got some time, but not much. But don't worry, we're gonna keep going. So next, coronavirus has been all the rage in certain countries, and it has now taken another victim, a much less important victim than all of the people who have actually died from coronavirus. Mission Impossible 7 had to cease its production in Vienna because of the coronavirus outbreak. And I think this is a kind of story that we are going to see a lot more often in the coming months. A lot of Hollywood films, and a lot of films in general, are shot overseas, specifically in certain countries because they want to use them for particular backdrops. Charlie's Angels had a whole section that was in Turkey, in Istanbul. Obviously, Mission Impossible 7, those films go to all kinds of different places, but a lot of, mid-budget action films, those are shot in Hungary. They're also shot in other Eastern European countries because the tax credit situation is so favorable there. And I feel like as the coronavirus starts to spread and starts to move out into these different locations all over the world, there will be productions that are paused and that go on the shelf or have to move production, move where they are being produced due to this. One thing that I think we have to look for is England is slowly moving into a not so great place with the coronavirus. It's certainly not as bad as Japan, and it's certainly not as bad as Italy or China. But a lot of stuff gets shot in England. I talked about this in a news update many weeks ago, that Pinewood Studios, I believe, in London had been totally bought out by Disney for like the next 10 years. This is the same lot that James Bond films are typically shot in. And if that studio has to close because of the coronavirus outbreak, that could really hinder Disney's release plans, as an example, for the next calendar year. So there is the coronavirus could have a far-ranging effect on the production of media. One other thing that's kind of like a what-if in my mind is that China obviously is doing a lot to contain the coronavirus outbreak, and I think their film industry is going to be heavily affected by this. You can't even really go to the movies there anymore. However, when they allow people to start doing that, there is going to be a period of time where there aren't really going to be Chinese films to release, and it makes me wonder if theater owners are going to ask for more foreign language films to come into the theaters in order to make up that lost box office profit, and if that will perhaps lead to a change in China's in the way that they approve and only allow a certain amount of foreign films into the country. It could happen. It could be interesting. I'm going to keep an eye on that to see if it actually is a thing. But yeah, that's about all I wanted to say on this. I imagine the Mission Impossible 7, I don't believe that the whole thing is being shot in Vienna, so they are likely just going to shift production to one of the other locations, or they're just going to take a pause. They have production insurance. I don't know if it covers pandemics, but they're probably not really losing money here. They're just losing time. But I have all the faith that we are going to be watching Tom Cruise do something ridiculous in 2021. I'm fairly certain that's going to happen. I'm just going to go back to the comments quickly. See, Dory said something else. The Chinese won't allow homosexuality in their films in China, but they fund, inject, and promote gay characters in the West. I don't know why, but Chinese seems nefarious. That's interesting. I don't really know what you mean by they fund, inject, and promote gay characters in the West. Are you talking about film, like obviously foreign films? They want Chinese like the Chinese government supports gay Chinese characters in foreign films? And if so, like, can you talk a bit more about the mechanism of how that happens, Dory? Because that's something that I did not know. So those are sort of the quick stories that I wanted to talk about. And now I'm just going to end things off kind of quickly. Just going to actually keep talking until my laptop battery dies. I'm trying to eke out as much as I can, guys. I can barely read what's on my screen. You could probably read it better than I can. So, going to move on to the Berlin International Film Festival. A few weeks ago, I put out a video talking about the films that I thought you guys should be interested in that could be making some waves at the Berlin International Film Festival. Turns out I was mostly wrong, but there were a couple that I got right, so we're going to be talking about that. But also I'm just going to try to do a bit of a deeper dive on some of the films that actually won, and talk about the ones that I think could be the ones that we're going to be talking about for the next year or so. There's one for sure that I think is going to be a festival and also award season possibility. Like, we might already know what's going to win Best Documentary at the Oscars in 2021. We might already have that information, but we'll see. We'll see. So let's get into it. As you know, or as you may not know, the highest prize at the Berlin International Film Festival, also known as Berlinale, is the Golden Bear, and that award was given to "There Is No Evil" by Mohamed Rusulov. And I'm just going to click on it here. Unfortunately, there is no image to go along with it, at least on the Wikipedia page. But the film is Iranian, and I don't know if this is the first Iranian film to win the Golden Bear or not. I'm thinking there might be a Kiarostami film that might have done that in the past, but it's rare that Iranian cinema I think does well in some of these festivals. Kiarostami is the only one I can really think of who did have extended success in the world cinema festival marketplace, let's call it. But yeah, I can't really say much about it here because there's very little, actually there's no plot given at all. Although the exact translation of the title is that there is no Satan, which is functionally true. But come on, guys, Satan's kind of cool, right? Right? A little bit? He's kind of cool. Right? I'm getting some nods over here. Satan's kind of cool. I definitely don't have a tattoo of a black goat on my arm. Let's see. Okay. So There's No Evil. Congratulations to Mohamed Rusulov. I'll be looking out for that film, definitely. Hopefully it comes to TIFF. Or it comes to a theater. I actually noticed, this really only applies to me and those of you who live in Toronto, but there's another theater chain that's not Cineplex. It's called Rainbow Cinemas or Imagine Cinemas. I think it's Imagine Cinemas. And they have one at Yonge and Gerrard called the Carlton. Sorry, it's at Yonge and Carlton. And I was looking at what films they are showing right now, and they actually have a better selection of world cinema than TIFF does right now. Like, TIFF is running with Portrait of a Lady on Fire and Corpus Christi, and that's great. I still need to see Corpus Christi. But, yeah, the Imagine Cinema was doing much better stuff, and I wonder if maybe they have secured distribution, like exclusive distribution in Toronto, and so TIFF is missing out on stuff, because TIFF notably has not been showing as many films as they used to, and they seem to be relying more on having other film festivals, hosting other film festivals as a way of bringing in audiences to the venue. It's weird, but it seems to be the direction that they're going. In any case, the Silver Bear Grand Jury Prize, which is basically second place at the festival, at the Berlin International Film Festival, went to Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. And I was really excited to see this win. It premiered at Sundance, and it did well there. I know some people who might be watching the stream. I don't know if they are or not. But some people who are also in the Toronto sort of film journalism side, although I don't really consider myself a journalist, they were at a TIFF secret screening a couple of weeks ago, maybe last week. This was the film that was shown, and they had a lot of positive things to say about it. And just looking at the trailer, it looks really cool. It seems to be shot in kind of a cinema verite documentary style. It's all about abortion rights in the United States and the lengths that people have to go to in order to get an abortion from a state that tries to outlaw it. And yeah, it looks like it's going to be real great. So I'll just actually go quickly to this page right here. You can kind of see the poster for it. Directed by Eliza Hittman. Or Hiltman? No, Hittman. And yeah, it looks super good. It looks super good. So yeah, keep that one on your radars if you can. Dory, watch out for this one. I'm sure it's going to be playing in a theater near you since you live in New York. It's based mostly in New York. Next up, we have one of the ones where I can take a victory lap. The Silver Bear for Best Director went to Hong Sang-soo for The Woman Who Ran. This was one of the films I actually picked to be good. My main premise behind calling it a film to watch out for, oh wait, that's not the right one. There it is, The Woman Who Ran, was that it is South Korean, and South Korea is so hot right now. And it looks like I was right. This film, I don't know, potentially if this were to exist in, like if this was an English language film, the description makes me think it's kind of a mumblecore type film. Basically, long shots, people talking, trying to figure each other out, that kind of stuff. The premise is perhaps not that exciting for some, but the director, Hong Sang-soo, as I talked about in my Berlin Festival, is considered a master of South Korean cinema. Seems like he doesn't do the more genre-based stuff that seems to make it to North America. I haven't seen any of their films. I'm not sure if they are male, female, or otherwise. Male. He's male. Okay. But yeah, I'm going to be trying to check this out. Hopefully it shows up somewhere where I can watch it. The list of movies that I need to watch is far too long, and it just keeps getting longer. Moving on, we have... I wasn't planning on talking about the films that won Best Actor or Actress, but Yindain and Hidden Away. Keep an eye out for that. The Silver Bear for Best Screenplay went to Favelace, an Italian film, and this one is not Delete History. There it is. Favelace. It was directed by Diamano. Oh wait, I practiced these. Damiano D'Incenzo and Fabio D'Incenzo. I think I got those mostly right. It is a dramatic film. Once again, not much on the plot here, but I don't know. This poster has me intrigued. And also it seems like the actual name of the film, like the translated name of the film is Bad Tales. And based on the poster itself, it looks like there's like a storybook element to it. Could be cool. Could be real cool. We know it's got a good script, at the very least. Jeremy Irons told us that it has a good script. For those of you who don't know, he was the president of the Berlin Berlin jury this year. So hopefully he's got good taste. I assume that he does. He's also super good in Watchmen, so that has nothing to do with anything. But the next one I wanted to point out was the Silver Bear Special Prize, which is basically the special jury award. I know that like the analogous award at Cannes is typically considered to be very prestigious. It's obviously not the Palme d'Or, but the special jury prize, I think, at least at Cannes, is considered to be the second place prize. At Berlin, I believe it's the third or fourth place, so still pretty good. And this went to a film called Delete History by Benoit Delépine and Gustave Kermern. And so here's the page for that. Once again, nothing to say about the plot here. I probably could have picked from a different website in order to give you guys more information on it. But yeah, another one to keep or to put on your watch list. Delete History. Looks potentially cool. I like the name at least. I wonder if it has to do with deleting your internet history. Like it's a drama about deleting your internet history. Could be. Oh, the next one I wanted to talk about, I can actually say more words about, so that's nice. This was another one that I had picked out in the video for films to watch at the Berlin Film Festival, and this was the film Welcome to Chechnya. It's a documentary about LGBTQ plus activists going to Chechnya and trying to get them to unfuck their ridiculous anti-homosexual laws, anti-LGBTQ laws. The pedigree of this film is very high. The director, I believe, is very well known in documentary circles. And yeah, I think this film also did really well at Sundance. It was there. It won some awards. I at least won one award that I can recall. And so in this case, it won the Audience Award, the Panorama Audience Award at Berlin. So good for it. It was obviously very appealing to the audience. And it has to be said that Berlin is a huge festival. Hundreds of thousands of people go to this festival. So to win that Audience Award ain't nothing to sneeze at. So good for that film. And I mentioned in the intro to this that this could be a film that we see in the festival circuit and leading up to award season and potentially being something that's nominated for Best Feature-Length Documentary at the Oscars. I think that's got a very strong case. This film is going to start making a very strong case. Just checking my battery again. All right. If you have other news stories from the week, start putting them in the chat now so I can start queuing them up, because we're playing with fire, everyone. We're not drawing a portrait of a lady who's on fire, but we're playing with fire. Last one that I wanted to talk about was the winner of the Panorama Audience Award for Best Feature Film. That went to a film called Attack by Serdan Globovich. And unfortunately, that one does not have a Wikipedia page to speak of at all. But here is the Wikipedia page for the director. Look at him. He's a handsome man. In 2010, oh, that's a 10-year-old photo. He's already starting to go gray. Poor guy. This film, I gotta laugh at that one. I'm happy there. The translated name for this film is The Father. And I don't know much about his previous films. It looks like he is only able to do a film every 6 years or so, which is interesting. But it looks like he did win the Grand Prix at the Film Festival de Paris, and he has won the Grand Prix Sofia International Film Festival and the Golden Apricot at the Urban International Film Festival and the Audience Award at the Sarajevo Film Festival. So he's not doing bad for himself. Not like A-grade film festivals, but also not bad ones. The Sarajevo Film Festival has a pretty good reputation from what I know. So that's cool. And yeah, so those are some of the award winners from the Berlin International Film Festival. As you can see from this list, lots of films win awards at Berlin. From the looks of it, there's like 30 to 40. Pretty nuts. So if you're looking for a random film that you want to check out, you're not sure what to do, I was just looking at this list, seeing if it's available either through streaming or on a service that you use, and give it a go. Try it out. See what Jeremy Irons thinks is a good movie. Nick is asking, is there an echo on the audio for anyone else? There is a large chance that it's for everyone. I'm not listening to the audio. I don't have it, but the room that I'm streaming in this week is a bit more wide open. I'm in a larger apartment than I normally do live stream in, so apologies for that. But you know, it's a lot more comfortable in this room. So I think as we go on with these live streams, as this channel begins to mature, obviously the equipment I'm going to use. Oh, apparently it's very, very echoey. Sorry, everyone. Sorry about that. But yeah, this is the microphone that I'm using. It's not very good. It's not directional. It's an omnidirectional microphone, so it's just going to pick up things from everywhere. If it was right here by my face and I started talking a little bit quieter, that would probably improve the echo quite a bit. But then I would be holding a white ball right up against my mouth for like an hour, and I don't know if I want to do that. I also feel like that I am suddenly doing some kind of ASMR video, which maybe, if you guys are into that, I could do ASMR film reviews. I don't know what that would be like, but it's possible. So sorry about the echo. I'll actually just like turn this into a proper mic. Maybe this improves the echo. Let me know, yay or nay. Let's see. let's see. Let's go back to the chat real quick. Like I said, we're just going to keep doing this until my computer dies. And that looks like it's going to be in about 18 minutes. So we'll see what we can do. So Dory's saying, going back to his comment about Chinese films, saying that the Chinese own Hollywood. The biggest stake the Chinese own is in AMC theaters. Interesting. I didn't know that there were elements of Chinese industry that own AMC theaters. The fact that Chinese owns Hollywood, I think that Hollywood is starting to bend the knee to China. I don't know to what degree that China actually owns Hollywood. I know that companies like Tencent are starting to make inroads in buying like video game companies and things like that. But obviously the biggest Hollywood blockbusters like, like Independence Day 2, they are obviously trying to make sure that they're getting into China so they can, make more money. So yeah, I've talked about it on the channel in the past. I don't like it when films are made for the Chinese audience in so much that they end up being regressive in the political context of how they're being released. Blockbuster cinema typically tends to be a reflection of the majority conservative type of way that people think about things. If you go back to the initial Independence Day, I think that's a very good example of that. Apparently my battery is running low. I had no idea, Windows. Thank you for that. Yeah, I feel like a lot of Hollywood cinema, blockbuster cinema, is already like a little conservative in its tinge, and to not pull itself down, but to have to then make it more about Chinese values insofar as what their government pushes out as being what they think the world should be like, which is anti-Muslim, anti-LGBTQ, etc., is not great. Dory asking why I'm not talking about the Bob Iger story. I didn't really see it as being a big deal, honestly. I feel like Disney's one of those corporations where the head of the company isn't so important, and I know that might be a controversial opinion. Besides, he's being replaced by like another dude named Bob, so what really is changing? I really just wasn't intrigued by the Bob Iger story. It was a planned succession. We all knew it was going to happen. We all knew who it was going to be. And he's still with the company for like another little while, and I believe he's still keeping a position at the company afterwards. He will just no longer be the CEO. So he's still going to be around. He's still going to be doing stuff. I knew about it. I decided not to talk about it because I personally wasn't that interested in it. But we're talking about it now because you wanted to, and that's what we try to do here. And then we have Dory again asking, what about a story, The Invisible Man becoming a box office hit? No one sees it coming. I actually haven't looked at the box office returns for this weekend yet. Why don't we just go over to the worst designed website in the world, Box Office Mojo. Take a look at what happened there. Let's see. Invisible Man. That was on the dailies. Okay, Invisible Man making $29 million. Not too shabby. What was the budget on it? Did they give you the budget on this website? Come on, internet. Don't make this hard on me. I'm going to assume that because it was a Blumhouse film, right? Or no, it was Universal Pictures. Or did they just distribute it?
Saying you didn't get my Invisible Man one.
I haven't gotten to it yet. Oh, wait, Dory.
No, Dory is saying. I'm not saying it.
Right. I'm going to get there. Man. Hold on. The Invisible Man, just wiki. They usually tell me the budgets. $29 million box office on a budget of $7. Oh, yeah. So its total box office worldwide is $50. Yeah, it's done really well for itself. And was it a Blumhouse film? Yeah, it was produced by Jason Blum, so I do believe that was Blumhouse. Yeah, Blumhouse Productions. They just know how to make a goddamn movie for like no money and to make it appealing to people. It's kind of incredible. I don't to the extent that no one saw this coming, I don't know. I think that there was just nothing else of note that was released this week, and I think the other films that were in the top 5 for this weekend speak to that. Like Sonic the Hedgehog is number 2 after being in theaters for like 3 or 4 weeks already. My bad.